We're going to have a wee look at this question. Okay, so a pupil was given powders A, B, C, D and E. Each powder was tested for the presence of glucose, starch and protein. Okay, so we've got powders A, B, C, D and E, and we're testing for glucose, starch and protein. Okay, the table below shows the final colour observed at the end of each of the tests. Okay, so if we have a wee look, they have carried out the tests, the Benedict's test. Okay, and I've just noted down the Benedict's test for sugar, and I've stuck down that it's blue at the start. Iodine test for starch, and I've sort of jotted down to remind myself that it's yellowy brown at the start. And Biuret test for protein, and I've just jotted down that that is blue. So if we just remind ourselves about the food tests, okay, so Benedict's is used to test for reducing sugars such as glucose. It's blue to begin with, and then it'll turn orange if you have got glucose present. Iodine test for starch, and iodine is a yellowy brown colour at the start, and it will turn blue-black if you have starch present. And then Biuret solution test for protein, and it is blue to begin with, and it turns purple if protein is present. So I always remember P for protein, P for purple, to help me remember the colour change. Okay, so with that in mind, let's have a look at what we've done here. Okay, so if we look at powder A, okay, now remember Benedict's is blue at the start, so powder A, it has gone orange with Benedict's, so that's a positive result. So we know that powder A has got some glucose in it. Okay. If we look at powder A when they test with iodine, okay, iodine test for starch, it's yellowy brown to begin with, it's turned black, so we've got a positive result for iodine as well. So we know that A also has starch in it. If we look at Biuret, it tests for protein. It's a blue colour to begin with. It's still a blue colour after we've done the test, so we know there's no protein. So A contains glucose and it contains starch. Okay, move on then to powder B. Okay, now Benedict's is blue to begin with. It's still blue at the end, so there's no sugar, no glucose present in B. Okay, we look at the test for starch using the iodine, and it has gone from yellowy brown to the black colour, so the blue-black colour, so that tells us that there is starch present. So B has got starch. Okay. And if we look at the protein test with Biuret, blue to begin with, still blue at the end, so there's no protein. So in B, all we've tested positive here for is starch. Okay, if we take a look at C, Benedict's then is blue at the beginning, blue at the end, so there's no glucose in C. Okay. The starch test, iodine is yellowy brown, it's still yellowy brown at the end, so we know there's no starch in C. And then if we look at the Biuret test for protein, blue turning to purple, P for purple, P for protein, so there's protein present in C. Okay, let's look at D. The Benedict's has changed from blue to orange, so that tells me there's glucose in there. The iodine has gone from yellowy brown to black, so there's starch in there too. And the Biuret has gone from blue to purple, so that tells me there's protein in there too. Okay. So powder D has all three reagents in there. If we look then at E, Benedict's remains blue, so there's no glucose in there. And the iodine remains yellowy brown, so there's no starch. And the Biuret remains blue, so there is no protein either. So E hasn't tested positive for anything. Okay, so it's tested nothing out of what we've got. Okay, so we look at what they're asking us. Okay, we want the one that contains protein only. So looking at what you've jotted down at the top, that would be C. We're looking for the one that has only starch in it, so that is B. Starch and glucose, A tested positive for both of those. Glucose, starch and protein, so the D is the one that tested positive for everything. And then E, as we found out from our wee test, E didn't have any of those reagents in it.